Hello and welcome back. My name is Erin Ferguson and this is my video series about creating the art for a 2D video game. And I have to apologize, the camera's going to be a little shaky today because I didn't feel like getting out my tripod. My daughter just went down for a nap and I'm anxious to just jump in and start working. So today we are going to be drawing together, you and I. Hopefully if you like to draw, get out something to work on and I will just be background noise for your work. And as you can see, I've already got a head start on today's project. Working on furnishings to go in our wizard's house. So I'm gonna do a little more drawing. I still have to do like some cool crystals and like a crystal ball and some old books and things like that to go on the shelf. And then I'll be getting it all colored hopefully today, and I will just be talking to you while I do all of that. So hang tight, I'm gonna switch over to my screen and I'll be right back. Okay, we are in, and as you can see, I've already got a pretty good start on this stuff. I wanted our wizard to live in, well, he lives in a tower, and so I want like the main room when you go inside to be round. And so he's got like a great big cauldron here, which will be in the middle of the floor. I imagine it being full of like green goo, just like bubbling and sizzling away. And I've got a bed here for him, and it's got, you know, cool like star and moon pattern on there. Also a round rug that's gonna have the phases of the moon. I found also, I was searching for different like reference images online, and I found like these cool frog statues, and I thought it'd be even cooler if we had frog statues but they had like candles in their mouths. So he's gonna have a bunch of these like frog statues with like the wax melting down the front of their face. I thought that was super cool and very like wizardy. And then he's got his spell book here and on like an owl book stand. And this is the part that I need to work on right now. So we've got a bookshelf here, but I need to fill it with cool stuff. So that's kind of like first thing on my agenda. And I also want to make him like a crystal ball where he can look at it and like maybe predict the next day's weather. That'd be funny if that's like, I mean, you know, the medieval version of the Weather Channel. You have to like, you gotta check your crystal ball and see what to expect the next day. So just a brief update for those of you who watched last week's video. Last week's video I started an Instagram experiment because self-promotion is hard and it's something I drag my feet about quite a bit. I don't mind YouTube too much because it doesn't feel like self-promotion, it just feels like sharing, I guess. It just feels like fun. So anyway, I decided on Instagram though, because I feel like posting on Instagram tends to be kind of a chore, although I do enjoy like consuming Instagram. As a consumer, I like watching what other people post. I think that's fun. So I'm trying to be better about sharing more consistently on there what I am working on. And so I decided to, on last week's video, set aside some time to basically make a bunch of posts in advance and then use something like Later or another, you know, software to, another app or software to schedule when my posts would launch. And so I wouldn't have to actually, you know, do much. I was trying to make it less work on myself, basically. And so anyway, you'll be happy to know, so during that video last week, I made a few posts, and then after I finished, after I turned the cameras off, I had a little more time later last Friday to work on those a little more, made a few more. I didn't quite get a dozen done. I think I'm gonna hopefully do a few more this afternoon, try and just make a habit of trying to do maybe a few a week or so I can just make them all at once, schedule them, and then not have to think about it anymore. But I've got the first few. I used Later, which so far is working quite well for me. I'm just using the free version. But I used that to schedule all my posts, and that's been working pretty well for me, actually. I'm not sure the time slot I picked was the best. Maybe because it's summer, I don't know. And part of that too is because when the post is ready to launch, you do have to physically go in and like okay it. It doesn't, with the free version, it won't post it completely automatically for you. It'll let you know, when it's ready to post, and it'll have everything ready for you, but you still have to like pull the trigger basically to make it post. And so anyway, I was, there's a few nights because, my son was playing on my phone or whatever, that I posted it a little later than I'd intended to. So I don't know about the time slot. I might experiment this week and see if maybe something like earlier in the morning is more effective. We'll just see. In the past, my most effective time, like I mentioned in the last video, has been like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Those have been my most effective generally speaking, that tends to be a fairly effective time slot for me to post. But I might try some morning ones this week and just see how that goes, and I will let you know. And again, like I said, if you have any Instagram secrets, feel free to pass them along. So far, I think it's been doing pretty well. One thing I did notice this week is I had a bit. Usually my posts don't get a ton of engagement. I mean, sometimes they get quite a few likes, but they don't always get a lot of other engagement, like comments or things like that. But I've already had a little more of that, mostly from people I actually know in person, who are my favorite people, frankly. So people that I know in person are my favorite people. So I love it when they engage with my posts. So anyway, I will keep you apprised of all the latest developments. And you know what? This crystal looks like it's growing out of the shelf, and I don't know. I don't dislike it, actually. I don't dislike that look. I mean, it could be growing out of the shelf. I don't know why not. This is a wizard's house. But I feel like maybe it should be like on a rock or something. Let me take a look. I have a bunch of reference images I brought in. Let's take a look at those and see. I have a bunch here. Here we go. I love this picture with this crystal collection. Just give me some ideas. I don't know. Maybe I'll detach it. Maybe I will detach it from its rock, or from the shelf. We'll pretend it's growing out of like out of a rock or something, like it was chipped off of something larger. Okay, yeah, that works for me. I'd be interested to know if anybody else did this when they were kids, but when I was a kid, I was really kind of obsessed with the idea of finding like a geode in the wild. And by wild, I mean like my driveway. We had like in the house I grew up in, my family, we had like a gravel driveway. And sometimes they would get some pretty good sized rocks in there. And of course they would have little, shiny bits and crystals and stuff in them, like pretty much all rocks do. But I was convinced if I cracked some of those open that there would be a geode inside. So I remember spending a long time, like an inordinate amount of time, out in my driveway as a little kid, throwing rocks against other rocks to try and get them to break open, because I was sure that they were just going to be full of crystals. And you know what? By golly, that never happened for me, actually. Although last summer, I was visiting my family, and I'm from Montana, so I was visiting my family in Montana, and we decided to go do some sapphire mining, and I took my kids and to give them the Montana experience. And anyway, at the sapphire mine, they gave you a free break-it-yourself geode, and so my son got a rock. It was for the kids. Kids could get a free break-it-yourself geode. And so we got one for my son, and I was so excited about this rock. So obviously I still have that in me somewhere, this desire to find crystals, but he was like only mildly interested in it. I was like so excited that we were going to break open this rock and find, this treasure inside, and he was like, kind of moderately interested, but we took it over to one of the guys who was sort of running the mine, and he sawed it open for us, and the crystals inside were actually like super disappointing. There were hardly any. I mean, you sawed it open and there was like a little bit, of like crystal dust in there, but it really was not very impressive at all, and I was actually kind of disappointed. I do need to polish it up though, because the guy told us you put a little mineral oil on there and it'll look nice. It'll keep it nice and shiny. And I haven't actually done that. I need to polish it up a bit. I think that would make it look at least a little more impressive. But our geode was essentially empty, which is really sad. And it definitely looked nothing like the really beautiful purple ones that you see in like the gift shop window. Boy, yeah, we have nothing like that. But the good news was, of course, we were sapphire mining and we did find a bunch of sapphires. They're not hard to find, of course. They're semi-precious stone, but if you know where to look, boy, they're not hard to find, actually. You'd have to try not to find one. But I love it. I love treasure hunting, even if it's not something super hard to find. I don't know, something about seeking your fortune in the dirt in the mountains. It was just, that's addicting stuff, actually. And we did find a few that were actually that were, you know, we had them sort of appraised there, and that were actually of a quality and a size that they could have been cut and made into something. And I'd like to do that at some point, because we had some really pretty ones, and we found a bunch of different colors too. You know, the blue and the green, but I also found a pink one and some yellow ones. And anyway, some of the ones that we found were just really pretty stones, and I wouldn't mind getting them set in something, just like a ring or something like that, just to remind me of home. Okay, so I'm thinking top shelf looks pretty good. I think the middle shelf should be like the potion shelf, because I really like drawing like fancy bottles. So Archimedes, our wizard, he's, you know, a bit of a hermit. And like I mentioned, I think I may have mentioned it on the last video, because I made a post, an Instagram post out of his house. But I imagine his place being the sort of place that you might stumble on accidentally. So it'll be kind of, you know, away from like super, you know, the busy town. It is technically in the coastal kingdom, but it won't be like in the middle of all the rest of the hustle and bustle. So it's something that you might stumble on accidentally, sort of tucked into the forest. But his house also basically doubles as a place of business. So you can buy spells or potions or whatever from him. And so I imagine he's got a collection here. Now, I don't know how good of a wizard he is, to be honest. I think he's a bit different, we'll put it that way. I think he's a bit different. And so I can't tell you if you would really want to drink anything that he'd prepared, but you know what? If you like living life on the edge, by golly, go for it. You may have noticed that I did not bother sketching any of this stuff out before I just went into inking it. And I can assure you that I have now noticed too. Which is funny, because I usually do sketch everything first, but for some reason I just dove right in. I'm just freehanding this. But I guess that's the beauty of digital. It doesn't really matter, because I can erase it if I don't like it. And I do like having the bottles sort of overlapping like that. That was a good move. Good job, Erin. I'm going to take a look. I found this cool reference with a bunch of different shapes for bottles, and I'm just sort of looking at it for ideas. As much as I love this one that looks like an anatomically correct heart, probably won't use that. I love this one with an actual like glass stopper. That's pretty cool. Let's do another like small bottle here. I like the round ones. So as you can see, I'm using that. I always use my reference pictures for inspiration, but I rarely copy them directly. Oh, how cute is that? That's a cute potion bottle right there. I would drink anything that came out of that. You know, I just had a thought too. What if some of these bottles, some of them could have like potions and stuff in them. I think these will all be like potion type bottles, but we could also do jars with like ingredients in them, like frog legs or snake fangs or I don't know, whatever else people put in magic potions. What about like bags that could have herbs and stuff in them? I'm liking that idea. Maybe I'll do like a drawstring bag or something like that, or a few of them that might be filled with various herbs and crushed things like powdered pigments or stuff like that. I just had another idea. What if we had like a snake weaving around these bottles? Like, maybe it's alive, maybe it's not. That would be kind of fun. I might do that on another layer just to be sure I don't mess this up. But what if we did that? What if we had like a snake just like coiled around these bottles, and it could sort of be like a second reed sort of thing. Like, kind of pushed into the darkness when I color it. Maybe it could be darker back there so it's not immediately visible that there's like this boa constrictor, like weaving around back there. He's hanging down a little bit. Yeah, that is creepy. And actually, to be honest, I'm not even super scared of snakes, although I was at this like, it wasn't exactly a zoo, but it was like this exhibit, this sort of rainforest exhibit once, and they had a live like anaconda there, and he was behind glass, and oh my goodness, like at his thickest point I'm saying he, I have no idea, but at the snake's thickest point, he was probably bigger around than, like, my waist. Like, he was huge, and I gotta say, if that thing was crawling up my leg as I walked through the forest, I might lose control of my bowels. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be terrifying. And generally, like I said, generally speaking, not really scared of snakes. I don't like spiders. Snakes don't bother me that much, but yeah, if I had something the size of, like, yeah, that big, like, working its way up my leg. Yeah, that ranks pretty high on worst ways to die, if you ask me. I like the idea of this jar being filled with, like, dead creatures, like maybe frogs' legs or something like that. Although I'm realizing now that I really don't know what frogs' legs look like. Even though I just drew that frog statue. Let's see, what other nasty things could he have? What about, like bat's wings or something? Maybe? Seems plausible. If you've got a jar full of dead frogs, you might have a jar full of dead bats. Actually, the other day I was outside. I got a little compost bin in my backyard because I'm trying to be a gardener and I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying. And so anyway, I started composting. So, you know, I could feed my garden. Anyway, so I was out there and turning the compost bin, and I went out there with my shovel to give it a turn, and there was a few big old fat toads in there just like living the good life in my compost bin. I honestly think they just they had things really good in there, which makes sense because the compost bin, you know, as you throw in like kitchen scraps and stuff like that, it attracts flies and other bugs, and it's warm in there and it's protected. Like, I think they had things pretty good. I moved them out of the way before I turned the bin because, of course, I didn't want to hurt them with my shovel, so I had to catch them first and move them. But I figured if they got in there before, they must know how to get back in. So anyway, it kind of made me happy, actually, to have, like, little creatures, you know, living their best lives. They're in my compost bin. The other thing we went mining for last fall, we went to the Crater of Diamonds. Is that what it's called? Crater of Diamonds National Park in Arkansas last fall. Just for funsies, like our little family. And I was imagining, like, I did my research ahead of time because I wanted to find a diamond. Like, I wanted to fund a couple of semesters of college education for my children. Like, that was the plan. We didn't find a stinking thing. Like, we didn't find anything. Still fun. Would have been a lot more fun if, like, I thought my son might get into it more, but I guess I should have known better after the whole geode incident. What if we put, like, an old wizard hat here? I mean, he's probably got a spare, right? Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. I think I will go ahead and do his crystal ball now. There we go, crystal ball. And I think I want to have, like, a cool base. Like, not that. Like, something better than that. Okay, so, like, with legs, almost? Yeah, something like this. With actual, like, legs on it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling pretty good about all of this stuff. Love these claw feet. I referenced like claw-footed bathtubs for this cauldron. I found a lot of pictures of cauldrons, plural, but none of them had clawed feet, and I thought that they should. Yeah, this guy I've been looking forward to also. I think he should be like gray, like he looks like he's made out of stone. A cement frog. Like a garden statue gone wrong, basically. You know what? I always thought that when I was like a kid and growing up, I always thought like garden statues and stuff were kind of tacky. But now that I'm actually like kind of into gardening, I want like a ton of them. Like, All of a sudden, out of nowhere, like, I want an army of garden frogs and, like, garden turtles. You know, I was gonna do this flame, like just a regular, regular flame. But I'm starting to wonder if I should do a colored flame, like a pink flame maybe, or green. We've already got like green kind of coming from the cauldron. Oh, which reminds me, I need to put like a glow around it. But I'm thinking maybe pink would be really cool. Like a pink fire. Let's explore this some more, shall we? Let's add a glow layer. And I want some kind of a glow around our cauldron here. That looks pretty cool. I think maybe for the cauldron though, I'm kind of thinking of like drawing some patterns in the glow. I kind of like that. I might leave that just like that. Cool. I also kind of imagine this guy being made out of gold. This book stand. Which again, I kind of got this idea from Harry Potter because I didn't reference it directly, but I do remember the movies in this case. But on one of the movies, when Dumbledore's standing up, I want to say it was like the 4th movie maybe, or the 3rd. And he's standing up giving like his beginning of year speech, and the podium, I think was an owl or some kind of a bird. Anyway, that's just kind of stuck in my mind, and so I liked the idea of him having this book stand. It maybe keeps his spell book open, or his potion book, or whatever, and it being this gold owl. I let my son borrow my phone while I finished up this video, so he'd have something to play on for a few minutes. And he's been obsessed lately with this jigsaw puzzle app that, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. You make jigsaw puzzles. But I am hearing weird sounds coming from the other room that sound like a karate match, and coming from my phone. Pretty sure he's not doing jigsaw puzzles anymore. And so for the record, for those of you who watched a few videos ago when I shared that story about that one time that I drew all those stars by hand and a girl in my class thought I used the Photoshop brush, and she called me out on it. So for the record, I drew these by hand. I also drew all of these stars by hand. I did not use the Photoshop brush, if it still exists. That's something I'm not totally sure about. I have a feeling this video is going to be coming to you rather late this Friday. In fact, I think what I'll do, I was going to see if I could get this all colored and shaded, but I think I've changed my mind. I think I'll just shoot for getting it colored, and I can shade it later this evening, but probably need to finish coloring this so I can get this footage ready to go. Yeah, and there you have it. I don't think that's too bad for an afternoon of work. Like I said, I've just got to shade it, but then it should be ready for me to stick into the, plug into the game and get everything mocked up. So thank you for hanging out with me, and of course, until next Friday, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you again soon.